Let's leave it go. Let's have another uplifting song. Then we're going to be talking about positive ideas about relationships, particularly important when you have young people. But here's Robbie. That's Robbie Williams, who loves his life. One of Sam's choices. Good choice, Sam. Relaxing on the sofa. Thumbs up from Sam. And we've got some other great tracks to bring you between now and the end of the programme. We'll be talking about random acts of kindness. We might even slip in a little bit of samba. Everyone likes samba, don't they?
Definitely, yeah.
But let's talk about relationships. So Robbie Williams, a fitting track to play there. He's had lots of turbulent relationships. He's had lots of challenges with his role in the world and his place and how he feels and looks about himself. Let's welcome our guest to this part of the programme, Catherine Aluwalia from Lighthouse Women's Aid. Welcome, Catherine.
Good evening.
Tell us about the work that you do in schools and why that's necessary.
Well, first of all, we look after women and children that have suffered domestic abuse, so we see that end of it. And what drives us to be motivated to actually go and talk to young people about healthy relationships is because time and time again when we run programs for people that have suffered abuse, they say to us, why wasn't I ever taught this in school? So it makes perfect sense to us that we need to go into schools and talk to young people about healthy relationships. And in fact, from September 2020, healthy relationship education becomes statutory in all schools. And so we've got a program that we've been running for about 2.5 years called Expect Respect, which is designed for students from the age of 5 to the age of 18, and we teach them all about respect for each other. It's very anti-bullying, it's very age appropriate. So when you're talking to young children, it's just about being kind to each other, not having unhealthy secrets. It's very easy for them to understand. And then as we get up into secondary school, we start talking about abuse, consent, how to recognise abusive relationships, because sadly one of the biggest growing groups of unhealthy relationships is 16 to 24-year-olds, and we feel really passionately that actually we have to go into primary schools and talk to boys as well as girls about unhealthy and healthy relationships, because in my experience they've actually lost their way with relationships a little bit. While we're in secondary schools and we ask young people what they think about relationships, they tell us that they don't even know what a relationship should be, partly because they've lost their boundaries, which is a lot to do with social media and the internet, and so they don't really understand what healthy relationships should be.
So is this because they're not seeing that modelled out in their parents and their families and their siblings, or why?
It could be because if you come from a household where there's domestic abuse, that type of behaviour is normalised. So it could be that, and I'd probably say about 50% is that. But it's also about the way young people talk to each other, and sometimes the language that they use and the things that they get away with saying to each other. And again, partly fueled by the internet, because you're that one step away. I mean, we've been talking about mental health this evening, and the impact that negative relationships have on your mental health is very significant. And if you look at bullying on the internet, when we were young, when we went home, we had a sanctuary. Well, young people don't have a sanctuary anymore. So if they have unhealthy relationships, it follows them 24/7. So it's really impacting on them.
I mean, one of the things that concerns me as the father, so my big son is 11, so he has a phone, and he messages his friends, and I look through what he talks about, and it's fairly anodyne at the moment. But the idea that I could be downstairs and he can be upstairs in his bedroom and come back down and me not know that he's had a bad interaction, or he's someone has upset him.
Absolutely.
Him being within the house, but not knowing that. If you see what I mean, and that's hard.
There is a lot of work being done around internet security for young people, and in fact, we're going to Crucial Crew this year. I don't know if you remember Crucial Crew for Year 6. So we're talking to them about healthy relationships, and we're working alongside the police, who are also going to do internet safety with them as well. And it's on the internet, it could be their friends that are bullying them, but also they don't always know who they're talking to. There could be predatory adults that are behaving and pretending to be their age and their friends. So
people join groups, and with some of the different apps and things, people can contact you without you knowing who they
Absolutely.
are. Which again is something troubling. What about how kind of sex is shared and talked about and discussed? There's a huge amount of pornography, but there's also pressure for people to take intimate pictures and share those, and that can again be seen as normal within a certain group. And
and young people, and the figures of how many young people actually share explicit pictures with their boyfriend or girlfriend is quite shocking. Slightly controversially, when we talk to young people about it, instead of telling them not to do it because we know they're going to do it because it's so prevalent in our society, what we actually do is we tell them not to put their face in it. So if that picture gets passed on, nobody's going to know it's them. And another thing that young people don't realise, they're very good at knowing their rights, but they're not very good at knowing their responsibilities and the consequences of their actions. Because if you receive a nude of somebody and you then pass it on to somebody else, you can be criminally liable.
Well, if they're under 18, then that's all sorts of things coming your way, which again is 2 clicks.
Absolutely.
on a phone without even thinking about it.
And we have had convictions in Suffolk for that, but young people aren't aware of what they're doing and the consequences of it. And that's part of what we teach them. We do a lot around conflict resolution, but we also do a lot about the consequences of your actions and how we are all responsible for our own behaviours. And I would say that young people have a very high sense of entitlement, but a lot less responsibility than generations before. So there can be a bit of an imbalance when it comes to relationships. And it's not just against girls. You know, we see young boys abused as well. It can be same-sex relationships. It can be friendship groups. We don't just talk about boyfriends and girlfriends. It's all your relationships in every community that you belong to, be it your school, your sports club, your home, your choir, wherever you go. We want these young people to know what healthy relationships are. It'll improve their mental health, it will improve their academic performance, and they will engage better with people.
So you go into schools and you're discussing this. Do you get a sense, and it might be that, again, because of the nature of what you do, you are exposed to more negative than positive, because the positive people aren't coming to you for help. But do you get a sense that our young people are lacking happiness, that there is a kind of
I think they're struggling.
There?
I think they're struggling. I think there's far too much pressure on young people because of social media, academically, you know, pressure to perform. There's so much pressure on them that I think it does affect their mental health. And when we go into schools, we are talking to teachers and head teachers a lot about the amount of anxiety that they're seeing in young people, and also about how, not the lack of services, but just how long it takes those young people to get the right help. So I would say there's probably a lot more prevalence of anxiety, which is caused by the pressure that's put on them from a very young age.
Where does this fit into your spheres, Katrina and Natasha?
Well, the thing is, I mean, we're talking with happy people, and also in as a positive mindset coach, we're talking about looking after yourself, self-care and self-respect. We really need to be aware that the way that we treat ourselves is the benchmark to how other people will treat us. And I think we can't start early enough. I've worked with teenagers as well that have been terribly abused. But again, there's so much bullying. It really is quite terrifying. And I think it's to develop a good self-image. Claire was talking before. We brought a film to Ipswich called Embrace about body image. There's so much body shaming. You know, it's so difficult for young people to wake up and feel great about themselves because they're always compared very often to totally unrealistic, you know, beings in advertising, and we have this constantly kind of projected at us. And, you know, to go back, to kind of take it right back to what I was talking about in the beginning, the negative scripts that we have. One of the most prolific scripts that we have will be not feeling good enough. And again, we will evidence-base if we don't feel that we're good enough, and the script can become worse to the point where someone might feel that they're unlovable or maybe that they're worthless. And then the clever big advertising companies will use that, you know, for young people. And I'll just give you the strapline of one large cosmetic company whose strapline is, because you're worth it. Therefore, you're not buying a brand. You're not really worth it, are you?
Content people don't buy products.
Content people are grateful for what they have, and they do not look outside for verification of who they are. They know who they are. They know they're great. They know they're happy.
From my point of view, on young people, any type of people, obviously I'm coming from it from the food angle. But if you think about the amount of antidepressant use we're now seeing, so 1991 we had 7 million antidepressant prescriptions. 2018 we had 70.9 million antidepressant prescriptions. And this is also, you know, it's getting more and more in young people. We're seeing a lot more anxiety and depression. It's not a coincidence. There's so much convenience food. You know, my children are 18 now, and when you look at their peers and what they eat, it is junk. And if you're putting junk in, you're not going to feel great. You've got all the other pressures in your life. You can't get your brain straight. And we saw when I changed the way we ate at home, the way their moods levelled out, that they were able to cope more, that they had less stress just because they felt stronger.
This is very true, though, because this is one of the things we work with the eating program, and I've become fascinated as I've worked as a therapist. You see, I think our brain needs about 500 or 600 calories of good protein for it to function, with a lot of fat. Now, the thing is, we're not feeding our brains well when we eat junk food, so our brain isn't working properly. And interestingly, the brain displays symptoms that are incredibly similar to depression or anxiety. Which is that's quite an amazing thing. So I wonder really how many of us are actually depressed and anxious, or we're starving our brain of the nutrition it needs to function properly.
That's really interesting. And the problem you have is that you go into school and you give a workshop, or you have the things that you're trying to do, and you're up against the advertising budgets of the largest corporations of the world, who all have something to flog, which is exactly the opposite of what you're trying to say.
I think they're running scared though now. I think the people are cottoning on that there are ways to self-help, and you have a responsibility to find out for yourself. And the information's out there.
And don't forget the power of young people. I mean, they, given the opportunities and the education and the awareness to understand these things, they'll do it for themselves. And I'm sure that we'll see a change in the next generation coming up in terms of the internet. We've almost got overexcited about everything, haven't we? And don't underestimate the power that they can do to heal themselves and look after themselves once they realise the impact of what they're doing.
Catherine, thank you very much.
Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Summer Buddy Holly, the working folly, good golly Miss Molly, and boats. Hammersmith Pally, the Bolshoi Bally, jump back in the alley, add nanny goats. 18-wheelers, camels, Dominica camels, all other mammals plus equal votes. Seeing Piccadilly, Fanny Smith and Willie, being rather silly, and porridge oats. I better grin and bear it, I better come and share it. You're welcome, we can spare it. Yellow socks, too short to be haughty, too nutty to be naughty. Going on 40, no electric shocks. The juice of the carrot, the smile of the parrot, a little drop of claret, anything that works. Elvis and Scotty, days when I ain't spotty, sitting on the potty, curing smallpox. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. 1, 2, 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Health service glasses, gigolos and brasses, round or skinny bottoms. Take your mum to Paris, lighting up the chalice. Wee Willie Harris. Bantu Stephen Biko, listening to Rico. Harpo Groucho Chico. Cheddar cheese and pickle, the Vincent motorcycle. Slap and tickle. Woody Allen Darley, Dimitri and Pasquale. Balla 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 and Valari. Sunday nights to study, phoning up a buddy. Being in my nutty. Saying okie dokie, sing along a smoky. Coming out a chokey. John Coltrane soprano, Eddie Celentano, Bona Carlino. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. 1, 2, 3. Yes, dear, perhaps next year, or maybe even never. In which case... cheerful. Part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. Part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. Part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. 3. Reasons to be cheerful. Part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. Part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. Part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. 1, 2, 3.
Ian Jury and the Blockheads, Reasons to be Cheerful, Part 3.
For the first time, Felixstowe Radio is taking over BBC Radio Suffolk. Broadcasting to one of Suffolk's favourite seaside towns, Felixstowe Radio offers a range of programmes giving local people a chance to champion what's happening where they live. We'll be hearing from the people involved and find out about the range of shows they broadcast. Felixstowe Radio, taking over BBC Radio Suffolk next Tuesday evening from 7.
That is going to be an excellent show. We'll be down by the seafront, by the pier, so come along and say hi, broadcasting live with volunteers from Felixstowe Radio here on BBC Radio Suffolk.
This is the Tuesday Takeover on BBC Radio Suffolk.
With the happy people. Hello, happy people.
Hello.
Are you still happy?
Totally happy. It's getting a bit close to my bedtime. I tend to get a bit grumpy at this time of night. What should I say?
You're not allowed to.
You can
You're
have
not
a
allowed.
pecan.
I'm fasting.
You can't fast. Oh, no, you've got all this lovely food and you're on a fast day.
That's all right, because we'll have those tomorrow.
That's all right. Is it just one day fast?
No,
No,
it's in the day. We have a 14-hour fast period. It's quite easy, actually, because you're asleep for most of it, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. And it's Ramadan at the moment as well, so there's all sorts of fasting going on all over the place. We are going to be talking about random acts of kindness in a moment or two. The show is all about being happy. We've talked about dancing and keeping fit and all sorts of things, but making music is another way of, I don't know, blowing off the cobwebs and just putting a smile on your face. And something that always makes me smile is samba music, linked to the running. When they do the Ipswich Half Marathon, one of the samba bands comes and plays in the town centre, so you're running along and you're feeling a bit tired and you hear the and it just gives you a boost and a lift. And you've been along, Sam, too. This is Samboomba.
Samboomba, yeah, I interviewed James. He's the musical director of Samboomba.
Let's have a listen.
Hi, I'm here with James Gunnell from Samboomba, and we're talking about all things samba and how that relates to happiness. So hi, James.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Sam.
What is Samboomba?
Samboomba is a community-based samba band that's been running for almost 15 years. We've got about 40 regular members. We do fetes, carnivals, street fairs, private functions, you name it, all over the region, so really, really good fun. I got involved almost 10 years ago. I had a period of ill health and needed to step forward. And I've been a percussionist in the past, so samba seemed the obvious choice.
what benefits do you think people get from joining something like Samboomba?
It is a cliche to say, but it is a real sense of community. I know that sounds cliche, but you meet lots of good friends, acquaintances. You get to go to street fairs, carnivals, places that you would never go. You find out about different workshops across the country, festivals. It really is the best thing that I've done, I think.
And I mean, what benefits have you found from it personally?
All of those things that I just stated, I think. But on top of that, I think it challenges yourself. There is times when it really, really challenges you, but it also makes you a stronger person. It challenges your abilities, you become wiser. I've grown as a person. Again, that sounds cliche, but you do grow.
And presumably it's not just about the sense of community, but the music itself, and samba's a very upbeat music, isn't it? And
Very.
The fact that when I used to be a member myself, and we always used to dance when we were playing, and also when seeing the gigs, everyone kind of dances along. That must have a positive effect on you as well.
Yes. From a spectator point of view, it's very hard to keep still. Lots of people will jig about or dance, tap their feet. English audience can be a little bit reserved, but still you might get a foot tap from most people. But yeah, it's incredibly vibrant music, and you can't not move to some point. It is really, really good.
I think it's quite grounding as well.
Very grounding. It's very much about a team effort as well, because if you've got someone that's maybe not such a stronger member by the side of you, you help that person. Also for the fact that you hope someone helps you for when you join, because I've been in the band for almost 10 years. Someone obviously needed to help me, so it is a community spirit, it is a team spirit, and you help one another to produce a really, really good funky sound.
And I know that you've got at least a couple of members in the band that have got like mobility issues, and I know there's other members of the band that have got mental health issues. How do you address those kind of things within the band?
A lot of it polices itself, really. Most people will be there for their own particular reasons. Mobility-wise, again, we work in with one another. People know that they have those restrictions or those needs, and they're taken into account. It's never seen as a problem, really. Mental health problems, it's again, it polices itself, really, and they're there to improve themselves just as much as I was when I started.
What sort of impact would you say it's had on your mental health?
Only positive. Again, as I say, there is obviously challenges along the way, but it's been mostly positive. I mean, again, you learn new skills, but I am much more of a happier person. That seems like a umbrella term, but I am a happier person.
There we go. That was James Gunnell talking to Sam. You can find out more at samboomba.com. That's SAMBOOMBA. Samboomba.
I will get it right.
It's a good title though, but that's very satisfying to. Whether you have one of the big drums or whether you have a little cowbell or what have you, you're part of something that is making a tremendous noise.
Kind of prefer the big drums to the cowbell. I'm just putting it out there in case the opportunity arises.
Well, actually, when I used to play in the samba band, I used to hit the tam,
And you would think that it's not very satisfying because they're only about that big. You can't see that on the radio.
So a tiny little kind of hand
Yeah.
span size.
But it is incredibly satisfying, and you kind of move along as you're doing it and getting the whole flow.
And the samba band, it needs all the mix of instruments, doesn't it? It's
Exactly.
very
We
much.
need to try that.
And the cowbell's pretty cool as well, actually.
I take it back. Okay, I'll take it.
The only thing I did find a bit disappointing was the shaker.
Oh, so you can't pick on the shakers. Everyone needs a maraca, don't they?
Well, yeah, but just personal preference.
Let's have another song, and we're going to talk about acts
It's
of
the radio
kindness.
show. I'm just recording the last one to put on YouTube.
Has everyone been kind to you today?
I know, I've just done per
it's
hour.
Very interesting
'Cause it's too long
John,
to
we
do it all
don't
in one.
see the world as it is. You see, we see the world as we are. And so if you're a happy, kind, smiley person, you tend to walk through the world and people are happy, kind and smiley back to you. Whereas if you're an angry person, you tend to get lots of angry, scowly faces. And people tend to be very kind, I think. You're looking
So the world is like the Willis Building in the centre of Ipswich, kind of reflecting back what you have when you walk past.
I never
That's
thought
very
of it that way. That is
very
very, very
deep.
deep. That will be the pecan brittle that's done that.
Do you think I'm
levelled you
already
right out.
exhibiting more positive thoughts?
I do notice that when I walk down the road smiling at people, that people often look a little bit surprised and confused. Often do a double take.
Do you go to London?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, not
And
not
do you
not
try and
regularly.
talk to
Yeah, you go
people down
regularly,
there?
don't you?
Yes, it's not the same as
no.
Suffolk. No,
Yeah, they look
definitely
at you
not.
very
Grumpy.
suspiciously,
No,
don't they?
no. I don't think you're being fair to Londoners. I'm just sticking up for everyone in London. Radio Suffolk, I can hardly believe it. What are you
Are
saying?
you from London, Katrina?
No, I'm just sticking
I'm
up for
from
them.
London.
Are you?
I'm telling you, they don't smile.
Don't smile. It's really hard. I mean, and the reason is because there's so many people there. You just have to kind of have your little space and put your shields up.
seems so.
It's not
It
very
seems so.
friendly.
always smiley in London, and people always smile back.
I tend to talk to people on the tube, and people are very suspicious.
That might just be you.
Yeah, it could just be me.
in their bag at the time.
Shh, I told you not to tell anyone about that.
Let's have another one. We're almost running out of time and your fantastic song picks. Who picked Good Life by Inner City?
Me.
Why did you choose this?
Well, because life is good, but I heard it the other day and I just thought, oh, I love this track. It's going on my list.
Let me take you to a place I know you wanna go. It's a good life. Hey, yeah. I don't wanna stand around and beg you. Just don't say no. No, 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 no. I have got a feeling that you're gonna like it. What I'm doing to you. And I'm doing what I'm doing. I'll be doing what you want me to do. Shining like this, thriving in the good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, in the good life.
good morning. No, come back in. Please do.
Thank you.
So, here I am at Base Point Business Centre performing acts of kindness by holding the door open for people. I would like to talk to Leanne, who is the community manager at Base Point Business Centre, where I have my office. Now, you are here all day long, and may I say, Leanne is one of the nicest, kindest people you could ever wish to meet. And she was had a very valid point earlier, talking about if I hold the door open, it would be seen as an act of kindness, whereas there'll be different expectations because she works here. Leanne, tell me a little bit more about that.
I just think, for example, within different job roles, there comes a list of expectations or things that people might expect you to do out of politeness rather than out of kindness. So because I work here, and if I was stood by the door and open it for people as they came in, it would almost be expected as part of the service. Whereas if you were to do it and they aren't aware of who you are, it comes across as more of an act of kindness rather than something that would just be done out of politeness.
Yeah, as an expectation, which is a really interesting point. So I want to ask you, when you see acts of kindness happening, do people, does it make you feel better? When you see acts of kindness happening, do you see people, because you work in the reception here, and people, and you are kind, you will hold doors open, you see nice things happen here. Does it make a difference to people? What do you observe when you see people involved in acts of kindness?
I think something small like that can really change people's outlook on a day. I mean, if you're arriving at a business centre and already you're greeted with someone who's smiley, who's happy, who's holding the door for you for no gain of their own, just to make your life a little bit easier, it's going to set the tone for your day right. No matter how you've turned up to work, it's going to add a little something. It's going to make you feel a little bit better about yourself, that there are people out there that will do little things just to help with no expectations of any payback of any kind.
And how do you feel when people are kind to you?
I love it, obviously.
Please note, everybody, that Leanne loves acts of kindness. Now, I'm just going to hold the door open for another lady and see what her reaction is going to be. I think Leanne absolutely has a point, an unexpected act with no benefit. Good morning.
Morning.
And I think that can really make a difference. So acts of kindness not only make you happy, they also make the person receiving the kindness happy as well.
A win-win for everyone. Was anyone grumpy that you opened the door, or did anyone?
Absolutely not. No, everyone was smiling and happy. But then if you're standing there smiling away and you're greeting people good morning, they're not really going to be rude and nasty, are they?
It'd be a bit churlish, wouldn't it?
Well, I think it would be very churlish, and we're not like that, obviously, in the Ipswich area. We're very, very nice people.
No, not like that. They're London.
Only in London, that's right.
Where they're grumpy. But we are a bit suspicious. So holding a door is fine. If someone came up and said, "Oh, would you like
a pie,
an Easter egg or a pie?"
Actually, I have done that. Natasha recommended a book to me called Thank and Grow Rich, which again is all about gratitude, and she talks about, I can't remember exactly what she did, but whatever it was, it sparked me walking down the street and giving chocolates to people, which my boyfriend was absolutely mortified. He's a very long-suffering man.
Did people like the chocolate though? Did they agree that positively?
They did look a bit suspicious and a bit confused, but they all said yeah, thanks, and looked quite happy about it.
So a chocolate is fine if you kind of up the value of that and you gave someone something that cost £10.
Or just a tenner.
Or a tenner, yeah.
Well, I think that would be good if you could afford it. Obviously, it might definitely put a dent in my bank balance.
But being generous, I mean, you probably can't. Most of us can't afford to give out £10 notes in the street. But you can be generous with the money that you have, and actually,
absolutely,
yeah.
And I think, something that I did the other day was I bought a bee saver kit and donated money to Friends of the Earth, which was a thing that Friends of the Earth were running, which that's a random act of kindness for the bees and for Mother Earth. So it's different ways of looking at it, isn't there? And there is actually a website that if you need to get ideas. When Katrina first told me about random acts of kindness, I couldn't think of anything to do, so I went online and Googled it, and there is actually a website that gives you ideas.
There's during Lent there's a campaign called 40 Acts, which instead of kind of giving something up for Lent, encourages Christians or people following the programme to do something positive each day and be more generous. So there are things like bake cookies and take them in, but some of them get quite challenging, and they're giving up your time and your energy and your skills, and again that kind of sets a pattern that maybe you can follow later on in in time, and it was really interesting. One of the women I interviewed for, who was doing that for when I did the Sunday breakfast programme, she was saying that although lots of them are very silly, they're teaching you to kind of have the right approach, so that when something big happens, your instinct is to have a generous and kind response to that rather than a negative one. And I thought that was quite an interesting kind of reflection on how, you know, silly little things can actually be quite important and big at the end of it.
But you can also do it on a daily basis, so maybe weaving it into your everyday life. I particularly like, when I'm driving, to properly look out for the next person that needs to be let out of a turning, or, you know, give way to, and, you know, they may or may not thank you, but it makes me feel better.
But what about a person behind
Well, that's
you?
what
It's
everybody
really
said to
cross.
me.
Yeah.
You know, you've got 2 or 3
Natasha, right?
people, you know, that I might let out. But the point is, if everybody did that, the traffic would flow really well, wouldn't it? You'd be having
flow time.
If everybody, yeah. But if everybody let out one person, you know, ahead of them, say on a roundabout where it's really jam-packed in the rush hour.
Do you know, so the little bit when you're driving from Ipswich towards Woodbridge, and you go around that first roundabout.
See, that's exactly where
and
I
then,
was.
Then there's double
Yeah.
lane for a bit, and it filters into the single lane. So most people at that roundabout know that happens, and you stay in single lane, and you get the 1 or 2 people who accelerate like mad down the outside to cut in front because they're 40 metres ahead.
Drives you mad.
So
Drives you mad,
rude.
but if you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to let them in, and you feel better, but you also think, you know, well, that's up to them. They've made that conscious decision to really annoy the whole row of people.
If you start to rise above things and set a good example, though, where's that going to end?
It's outrageous, John, isn't it?
But the thing is, as well, we also have to think we don't actually know what is going on in that person's life.
That's true.
And by getting irate with them, we literally will contaminate ourselves with their emotions. We don't need to do that.
No.
On the text, Pat had a neighbour that did his eye drops for him for 8 years. He thinks that was a wonderful act of kindness.
That's so
he actually
lovely.
needed the eye drops, right?
I assume so that was a kind thing rather than a intrusive and unnecessary medical procedure. But it's good to consider all options. Someone's had too many pecan nuts, haven't they? We're out of time. We have to stop. I've had a lovely time. I feel happy. I was happy to start with, but I feel happy towards the end of the show.
Happy it's over.
Give me one top tip for going away being happy. Your 10 seconds.
Be grateful. Be incredibly grateful. Look where you are. Look what you've got. Enjoy it.
Katrina Love, therapist and positive mindset coach. Thank you very much. You are a happy person.
I am.
Samantha Brooke, happiness blogger and presenter of The Happiness Show on ICR FM. Your tip is?
Oh, so many to choose from. I think it's got to be mindfulness. So when you are facing difficulties, just get into your body, feel your feet on the floor, see what's around you, what can you hear, what can you taste, what can you smell, and notice how quickly you start to feel better.
Thank you very much. Natasha Hodge, nutritional advisor.
Well, it's obviously going to be really great food that's been nourished by the sun. Is going to nourish you. So look out for the best you can possibly afford and eat that and be happy.
Thank you very much. This has been a Tuesday takeover by the Happiness People. If you want to have a go at doing it, send an email, Radio Suffolk, all one word, at bbc.co.uk. You have an idea, a group of friends, something that you're involved with, maybe at work, your church, or a social group that you have. Come along to a planning session, and then one of these Tuesday nights you could be on the radio, choosing the songs and interviewing the guests of your choice. If you weren't listening to our Happy People takeover from 7 o'clock, this is what you missed.
This is the Tuesday Takeover on BBC Radio Suffolk with John Wright and
the Happy People.
The Tuesday Takeover is full of happiness and joy this evening. We have got some positive, uplifting messages, and just shake that tub, will you? Oh. Hello, happy people.
Hello.
Hi,
Good
John.
evening, John.
We have happy people by name. We have Samantha Brooke, who is a happiness blogger and presenter of The Happiness Show on ICR FM, community radio in Ipswich. Hi, Sam.
Hi, John.
We have Natasha Hodge, who is a nutritional advisor.
Hi, John. How you doing?
I'm very good. I'm feeling quite happy today.
That's very good to know.
I didn't know whether that was good or bad, whether I should start kind of neutral and flat and then build to happiness, or whether I should start happy and then, I don't know.
Stay happy.
But
I
that's,
think it's the anticipation, isn't it?
The anticipation of
especially
happiness.
of the pecan brittle.
And we have Katrina Love, who is a therapist and positive mindset coach.
Good evening to you.
Are you feeling happy, Katrina?
I'm pretty happy. I'm a little bit excited. I'm happy, yes.
I help people to understand the importance of good food for great mental health. So that's where the happiness side comes in. Your brain literally cannot be happy biologically if you don't have the right fuel.
There's a fantastic quote by Henry Ford who says, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. We will evidence space all day long, whether the world is a great place or whether the world is a dark and nasty place. Each time we have a very sad and negative thought, the brain is going to tell the body to produce the chemicals accordingly. So we can just get in a spiral of darker and darker sadness.
And so I've shared my journey of how I've overcome depression and come off antidepressants. I think it's about encouraging people that it is okay to talk about it, and I think the more we do talk about it, then it takes away the stigma, and then hopefully more people will talk about it, and then it's a virtuous circle.
Now, if we start being happy, even though we might not have the habit of being like that, there's a tiny little footpath. And the more happy thoughts we have, and the more gratitudes we have, and the more good things we're looking for, that footpath will grow into a track. Before you know it, you'll end up with one of those kind of autobahns, hopefully.
Wow, we can have a happiness autobahn running through our brains.
Well, in fact, you just need 3 new things a day. So what I do, or what I advise people to do every day, consciously look for 3 new different things that you haven't had the day before.
So it's about understanding what your emotional attachment is to food, and understanding that means then you can move forward and rewrite the negative thought patterns you might have about it.
So this is Anthea and Cherry.
Hello, I'm Anthea Osborne, and I've been on the Happy People food diet, or whatever you want to call it, I'm not quite sure. But all I can say is it's absolutely amazing. I've lost probably over a stone in as little as 6 months.
Right, well, let's magic our way to the kitchen and see what we can cook.
Right, I am going to make some pecan brittle. Okay, so I've got all my ingredients in front of me, but first of all I'm going to line a baking tray with some baking parchment. It's actually non-stick, grease-proof and baking paper. Spread those out so that they're in a single layer. These are a massive favourite with the happy people. I'm just going to pop those into the top of the oven. And here's some I made earlier.
Yay! Cool.
Are you going to try some?
Come on,
Yeah.
no, look at that.
By popular demand, it's getting handed round.
Too nice. That's really nice.
The little philosophy I have, if you have a petrol car and you put diesel in it, it won't run, it will break down. So if we put crap or rubbish in our bodies, and then our bodies are going to react with making us feel rubbish or crap.
I saw a deer the other day, and I ran home really excited. Oh my God, I just saw my first deer! Yeah, and I've never
what
seen
the deer was doing, right?
I just saw my first creative director.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
I thought if I scare it a little bit, my dog won't get it. But no, she kind of just goes, oh, look at that.
I was going to say that's dog's flow time is seeing a deer. Baz, you are part of the outreach programme which supports people to do the Great East Run, which is a half marathon.
0 to 13.1 in 16 weeks. So, it's part of the Suffolk County Council programme where they do try and get people to be more active within Suffolk.
So Gareth, you went on this last year.
I still hate running, but I enjoy the social aspect of it. Just felt sorry for myself, put a lot of weight on, and was advised by the doctors not to actually do the course. So still say to this day it's the best thing I've ever done sporting-wise, definitely.
Chris, listening to that.
I run group classes, so I'm in charge of like 30 or 35 people in one go. It's interesting because we have in one class a variety of levels. So some people are absolute beginners, they might be very nervous or shy, it could be their first class ever. And even though we try and catch them beforehand, they're very sneaky and they don't like to tell you that they haven't done it before.
For me, it was a life changer, and it came at a very poignant moment where I'd had a massive rejection in my professional dance career, and it's just gone from strength to strength for me, absolutely.
They don't know what battles they're facing. Maybe they're there just to have a little dance, have a little boogie. Maybe they want to learn the choreography. Maybe they want to make friends.
Absolutely.
or whether it's yoga or boxing circuits or aqua aerobics, and then you have a little coffee afterwards with your mates.
Push your chairs to the side there. Claire, give us a very kind of simple narration. So people at home listening on the radio, just find a little bit of space, whether you're washing up in the kitchen, just put it down, or if you're driving, pull over and get out your car and find a space. And think that through. So what do we do? What do we do with our feet? We're doing a little box step or a shuffle, or
to your right foot and bringing the feet together. That's it. And then you step back on your right foot. For 5. Okay.
I'm going to let you hear the music. Have a little bit of this in your rhythm. So I mean, they're freestyling with their arms
I think
away, aren't they?
it's called self-expression. I think I'll always encourage that to a point.
A lot of elbows. As part of the programme, Catherine Aluwalia from Lighthouse Women's Aid.
First of all, we look after women and children that have suffered domestic abuse, so we see that end of it. And what drives us to be motivated to actually go and talk to young people about healthy relationships is because time and time again, when we run programmes for people that have suffered abuse, they say to us, why wasn't I ever taught this in school?
So that was our Tuesday Takeover.
This is the Tuesday Takeover.
By the Happy People. That mix definitely put together by Matt Marvel. If you want to find out more, Happy People Solutions is their organisation, happypeoplesolutions.com. And Katrina Love does life check training as well, if you type that into a search engine. I'll leave you with a lovely song that I think is very nice and suitable for lots of people. We are live from Felixstowe next week here on the Tuesday Takeover for a Felixstowe radio takeover. That is going to be awesome. Nick Risby's up next. Enjoy your evening.
I don't know, you keep on giving. For your kindness, I'm in debt to you. For your selflessness, my admiration. For everything you've done, you know I'm bound to thank you for it. La, 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 You've been so kind and generous. I don't know how you keep on giving. For your kindness, I'm in debt to you. And I never could have come this far without you. For everything you've done, you know I'm bound to thank you for it. La 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 la
On DAB Digital Radio.
FM.
And on the BBC Sounds app. This is BBC Radio Suffolk.
BBC News at 10, I'm Moira Alderson. Downing Street has described as deeply concerning the case of a man who apparently killed himself after taking part in ITV's Jeremy Kyle show. 63-year-old Steve Diamond died after failing a lie detector test to prove his fidelity to his partner. The programme has been suspended while a review is carried out. Lord Grade is the former chairman of both the BBC and ITV.
It's a very informed decision that individuals make if they want to go on that show and be part of that histrionic emotion circus, which it basically is. People know what they're getting into. The question is, which ITV will ultimately answer, is to what extent their duty of care procedures are strong enough.
The National Cyber Security Centre has urged WhatsApp users to update their software. The advice follows the discovery of a security flaw that allowed hackers to install surveillance software on people's mobile phones. Emily Taylor is from the Chatham House think tank.
This seems to be quite a sophisticated breach. It will make a voice call which doesn't even need to be answered by the recipient, and then once you're inside the app, then it's possible to install software or spy on the user.
Newcastle Crown Court has heard how a man made up an extraordinary tale of child sex abuse and murder by public figures, sparking a £2.5 million Met Police operation. 51-year-old Carl Beach has gone on trial accused of perverting the course of justice and fraud, which he denies. High Court judges have ordered that the far-right activist Stephen Yaxley Lennon, who goes by the name Tommy Robinson, should face full contempt of court proceedings in July. It's alleged a Facebook broadcast by him could have prejudiced a trial at Leeds Crown Court in May last year. The BBC's Dominic Cassiani has more.
Almost exactly a year ago, the anti-Islam protester was jailed